What's up, everybody? It's your man, MG Marcus Grant. And are you looking to stay up to date with the latest goings-on of your favorite, or maybe not so favorite NFL team? Well, how do you do that? You go directly to the source. Every week, Matty Kroll is doing just that with On the Beat, talking to beat reporters from across the National Football League. Be sure to check it out each and every week.
Host Calvin Domingo, aka Steezy A Smith. And as you guys might or might not know, we've had him on before, but as I like to call them, I got another VIG with me, a very important guest, and I'm not going to waste any more time. He works for ESPN, covers the Houston Texans, Mr. DJ Bien Aime. What's going on?
I'm doing all right. I like that VIG. Very important guest. I might have to use that one day. VIG.
You know, I don't recall because it was over a year ago, but did I use that with you?
No, I don't remember that then. That would have stuck with me. For sure.
Yeah, you would have held on to it, right?
Definitely. VIG hard.
Man, come on. Hey, bro, like I said, it's been too long. It's been over a year since last time we had you on the show. I gotta just ask, bro, how's life? How you living? How you doing?
I mean, it's cool, man. Houston a good vibe, you know what I'm saying? Houston, I'd rather live in Houston than live in New York. That's just me. Houston more affordable. It's easier to get around. Parking is easier. Your apartment complexes come with parking garage. Like in New York, a lot of apartments don't come with a parking garage. Granted, you know, like a lot of people in New York don't actually drive, so that's normal. But I prefer Houston across the board. I mean, only thing is it just gets too hot. Like over the summer, it was so hot that I thought something was wrong with my AC, but in reality, there's nothing wrong with my AC. It was just hot outside.
Right, and I mean, with New York, it's just so damn congested over there. Like, goddamn.
Yeah, no, for sure. New York gets really congested across the board.
Bro, right. And before we get into the Houston Texans thick of things, I gotta just ask you, bro. Like I said, you working for ESPN now. Last time we talked, you was covering the Jets for the New York Daily News.
Right.
And so I know you still pretty much do the same thing. You know, you're a beat reporter / journalist. You know, you work in sports media. But what's the biggest difference between working for ESPN and the New York Daily News?
I think Daily News, they care more about the minutia, the tedious day-to-day stuff that newspapers want you to write about, meaningless transactions, like people getting signed to practice squads, them trading friends. Like ESPN, like I said, like somebody, the Texans trade like a 7th round pick for a backup guard or whatever. Like we'll write about it, but like we're not gonna write like what does it mean for the team? How can he impact the team? We're just going straight to the facts, right? They traded X, Y, and Z for player at B, and all right, yeah, no, my bad. My mom called me again. But yeah, no, I was saying, if you trade for a player, the New York Daily News, you got to write that they traded for this player. How can this player help? What has this player done? What does this mean for the team? What does it mean for the unit? Where ESPN is just, like for example, they traded for Kendrick Green before the start of the season, guard for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And all I had to write really was just like they trade dates, what they gave up, and maybe a little bit why they traded for him, and that's it. Like you don't have to go too deep into X, Y, and Z. You just kind of straight to the point. And they only have to write like once or twice a week in the sense of things that are directly that aren't news, where like at the Daily News you have to write everything, you know what I'm saying? So like let's say I have a story on let's say I have a story on CJ coming out or whatever, like that'd be the only thing I write for the week, and I might do like a newsletter based off anything that happened at the game or something that's said during the week, right? Like there's like a headline or type of quote, right? So like sometime around like twice a week, maybe 3 times max. Right, Daily News I write every single day, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, multiple times, sometimes within a day. So probably like comparing like 10 potential clips to like just 2.
Right. And so for a lot of people, you know, that work in sports media, that are beat reporters, that are journalists, the cream of the crop is ESPN. And while there's always room to grow, while there's always room to, you know, to get better at your craft, there's always something more. When you got hired on over at ESPN, did you feel like you've achieved, I guess, your ultimate goal, like your dreams, or do you feel like there's still, how would I phrase this? do you still feel like there's a lot left that you want to do, that you need to accomplish?
Good question. I would say, if you would have asked me that in 2019, 2019, I think getting there would have been like, wow, like that was the pinnacle. But I think as I've gotten more in the industry, as I've matured, gotten older, getting here was just more like a cool milestone. But at the end of the day, like I have way more that I realized I want to achieve, and I want to, more that I want to achieve. So in reality, getting here is cool, but there's so much more, right? And I think like you have to enter it with that mindset, or like you can get really stagnant. I think for me, since I'm so young, like I have a lot more room to grow. I think if I was, let's say I got this beat or this job at the age 55, it'd be a lot different, right? Like I probably have wife, kids might be in college. Like I'm most likely not willing to like relocate and move my family from New York to Houston, because at the end of the day, like I done laid down my roots. I got my family situation settled, things of that nature. It's harder to move your whole family down to Houston. Because let's say hypothetically, I'm 55 or whatever, 52. I got a kid in high school. Like it's hard to be like, all right, I miss my wife doing whatever she's doing. Like it's gonna be hard to be like, all right, everybody, let's go to Houston, right? Like some might be on board, but in reality, like that's a way tougher decision. Let's say I got property in New York or property in Jersey, like now we gotta, finagle that. So I think it all really for me just depended on where I was age-wise, life-wise, individually. So since obviously I'm not married, no kids, it's like, all right, this is a cool milestone, but there's still more to achieve. But like if I was 52, 53, or maybe like 48, 49, and already, my kids in high school, wife, whatever, it'd have been a lot harder to even take that opportunity. And I think if I did take it, that would have been the milestone.
Right. Man, I love the perspective, bro. I mean, I just want to say, but I've been, obviously tapped in with you, bro, since we first had you on the show. And man, you on the way to greatness, bro. I really respect. I'm really proud of what you're doing, bro. I know you're capable of a lot more. You know what I mean? It's not to say that you haven't even done nothing, but
right, for sure.
But it's just like, it's just real cool, bro, seeing that progress, bro. And then now we fast forward like a little over a year, and here we are doing this again. Right. And so it's just, I just want to take a moment, bro, to really, show my appreciation, bro. I want you to keep doing what you're doing, bro, which I know you're gonna do.
For sure, appreciate that big time, bro.
Man, of course, bro. So we're gonna move on now to the Houston Texans side of things. And speaking of achievements, I mean, it's looking like CJ Stroud and that Offensive Rookie of the Year award is his to lose. And so I'm not going to ask you whether or not you think he's going to win it. Right now, obviously, he's the odds-on favorite. But what I do want to ask you is, who do you think is the biggest threat to take that award away from the CJ Stroud?
Bijan. Yeah, Bijan.
Bijan?
I think because Bijan is like, here's the difference. Like, while CJ's been great for a rookie, he's not necessarily would be viewed as a top 5 quarterback yet. Right. Where Bijan can make the argument he's already a top 5 type of back, or at least a top 8 guy, right? Like he's for sure in the top 10, where you can't necessarily make that argument for CJ, mainly because if you go through the list, right? Like you have Patrick Mahomes, you got Josh, you got Lamar, you got Herbert, you got Tua, you got Burrow, you got
Jalen Hurts,
you got Dak, you got I feel like someone I'm missing. Someone actually, you got Geno, you got Geno, Kirk Cousins. Like there's still like a bunch. Yeah, Stafford. Like there's a bunch of guys that still would you give the nod over them. Well, them over CJ at this point with Bijan. Like he's proven already that he a top 10 back at his position. So I would say him. I think Anthony Richardson would have stayed healthy. He would have had a great shot, but he can't stay healthy for whatever reason. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why it's always you got to be cautious when you take regular quarterbacks because they take a beating. So I would say it's Bijan. In all honesty, mainly because his numbers are going to look wicked at the end of the year from a scrimmage yard standpoint. But CJ averages 211 yards for the rest of the year. He'll hit 4,000 yards passing, and he'll be like one of I think 3 rookie quarterbacks ever to do that, or 4. Because Cam, Justin Herbert, so before Cam, Justin Herbert, and Andrew Luck, they all threw for over 4,000 their rookie year. Hell, I'm lying, 5 because Jameis did the same thing, and he got offensive rookie of the year too. So I would say he'd be the 5th quarterback to do that and they all got offensive rookie of the year when they did it.
Right, and he didn't win this, but speaking of quarterbacks, you probably peeped this. Aaron Rodgers spoke glowingly of CJ Stroud. And one of the lines that I really, took away from that interview was he talked about how, what was the quote? Ball security equals job security. And Aaron Rodgers, I mean, we know him for not throwing a lot of interceptions, among other things, as it pertains to his play on the field. With the CJ Stroud, we look at the fact that the Houston Texans don't have a first-round pick in next year's draft because they use that to acquire a Will Anderson. I'm looking at the Texans as a little ahead of schedule. Yeah. And so would you say that they could potentially be buyers at the deadline?
Buyers, I wouldn't say that. Mainly because who are you buying? You know what I mean? Like, are you going to buy a receiver? You're going to buy a linebacker? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are you necessarily buying? I don't know. Like, they're going to have to schedule my eyes because I didn't think they would be, like, a legitimate AFC South contender. Right? They got to win this week, obviously, but they have a shot. If they win this week, they'll be 3-3 going to the bye and play the Panthers. They can win that game, be 4-3 going into the following game against the Bucks, right? And I think all they got to do is hover around 500 going into December. Because if they're at 500 going into December, then they got a shot to win the division, mainly because they're going to play a bunch of guys within the division, right? You're going to play the Jags down the stretch. You're going to play Titans and Colts. You'll play those two teams 3 out of the last 4 weeks of the season. So you have a chance to really cement yourself within the division in that race. So could they be buyers? They could theoretically, but like, who could they actually buy, right? And then what would you give up, right? Like, I wouldn't give up a first for like a receiver at this point, mainly because I'd rather get a receiver in the offseason, but not a receiver right now. Mainly because the receiver got a good enough, and like acclimating those receivers, that receiver into the offense, that can be a little tricky. Getting timing down with the receivers, that can be tricky. So I would say, I don't really think they'll be buyers. Maybe on the defensive side, they can like buy low, and buy low with a high reward. Maybe like a veteran defensive end or a veteran linebacker that can step in and be able to make some plays immediately. Because when you look at their roster, they don't really have that many holes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
they don't have that many holes. Like linebacker is one position that they can obviously improve. I guess receiver to a lesser extent, but that's more of like a luxury type of thing. I guess like add more depth on the interior defensive line. I mean, their ends are really good. You got Will and you got John Bernard. Tight end is pretty good. You got Dalton Schultz. Damian Pierce. That's been the running game has been up and down this year, but that's a combination of O-line injuries, running backs not necessarily hitting the holes the way they're supposed to. But I'm saying, like, when you say buy, I mean, who's available? One, who's available to buy, and like, what do you want to give up? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather save those picks for offseason to where you can get like a guy like maybe like a T. Higgins or maybe a Brandon Ayuk or people like that, right? I'd rather do that instead. You know what I mean? Where you can keep your picks and possibly, just pay for T. Higgins and then just use that first round pick, that draft capital to add more young talent. Because even though the Texans are fairly young at like key positions, obviously Will and Bernard, they're fairly young. CJ's young, Nico's young, CJ's young. The O-line is pretty up there in age, right? Titus has been in the league for a while. Laramie gonna be 30 next year. Shaq is only gonna be 30 next year, or damn near 30. You got on the interior defensive line, Malik Collins and Sheldon. They play a lot of football. The secondary, yes, you have is young, right? You got Jalen Petrie, you got Derek Stingley, you got Tyree Thomas, but then you also got Jalen, Jimmy Ward, and you got Steven Austin. Both of them got 30 and up. You know what I mean? So like, wow, yes, the team is young at spots that we pay attention to. They also have a lot of veterans, so you're gonna need that draft capital to replenish the roster with talent and replace some of those vets eventually, whenever that time is.
Right. And so you brought up receivers, T. Higgins, Brandon Ayuk. Do you get the sense that the Houston Texans view Nico Collins as that alpha bona fide wide receiver 1? And I know context matters, so I'm not saying that this is necessarily a bad thing. He has 2 games with less than 40 yards, but he also has 2 games with over 130. And so I know you can never have too many receivers, but let's say Houston were to, aim for a guy like a T. Higgins or a Brandon Ayuk or another receiver. Does that mean less of a Nico Collins? Like, would they be willing to pay him?
I don't think I mean less Nico. I think when you got a young quarterback on a rookie contract, man, you try to load up at every single position, right? You just gonna keep adding, right? Like, if you can make Nico your number 2, then that means your number 1 is phenomenal, right? Because Nico's been playing really good football. And I think, like, again, you got like you saw what the Chargers did with Justin Herbert. You saw what the Bengals did with Joe Burrow. You saw what the Eagles did with Jalen. You see what Dolphins did with Tua, right? They just all loaded up on talent around them. So while they're continuing to develop, they don't have to do as much. And then once they finally reach that level of stardom, now you can try to take away some of those pieces and ask them to carry a little bit more, and they're more equipped. So I think it says less about Nico. It just says more about just trying to build and add as much firepower as possible.
No, and that's well said. Speaking of receivers, though, again, is there an update on Tank Dell? Because last I checked, the reports, and I think you probably contributed to this, but it's expected that he's not going to play this Sunday in New Orleans. Is that still what it's looking like?
As you've seen now with concussions, the league not playing no games, right? Like if you get a concussion, you're probably not playing that week. It is what it is. Like people are gonna be like, especially with the Tua situation last year, where it was on Front Street on national TV, and he got carted off on that Thursday night game against the Bengals. Team just like the NFL now, because you remember that people got fired over that situation, right? The independent neurologist got fired because of, I guess, how they perceived he handled that situation. So I think there's if you get a concussion on Sunday, there's just no shot you playing that following week. Like it's very slim to none, right? Like I've seen, right, Jamal Adams, right? He showed some signs, done. Obviously he didn't play the rest of that game. And if they had a game the following week, probably wouldn't have played, right? DJ Reed, Jets cornerback, former Seattle Seahawks. He said he had a concussion. He missed the game against the Broncos. Let's go on and on and on now, right? Like if you have a concussion or showing any signs of that, the team's gonna play. The league is gonna play on the safe side, and you're probably gonna miss the next game, and that's for the betterment of the player anyway.
Of course, and as they should, which is the right thing to do.
Right.
And so everybody out there that play fantasy football, if Tank Dell, most likely, right, he's not going to play. If you're a fantasy football owner and you play in a deep league, who would you start in place of a Tank Dell between like the Texans pass catchers? Would you say like a Dalton Schultz, or he's finally starting to come along, a John Mechie?
That's a good question. I would say Dalton for sure. I mean, Dalton scored the last 2 games, so it's just the last 2 games. So I would say him for sure. I mean, I think the fact that the O-line is a lot healthier.
Yeah.
I think that now they don't have to use Dalton on those chip blocks as much, right? Or leaving him in for protection as much now that he's healthy. So, I mean, not the O-line is healthy. So I think, if I had to choose, I would start Schultz over anybody else. But I wouldn't be surprised if John Mechie had a breakout type of game, mainly because, he's been starting to show some signs, right? You're starting to see some of the progress, starting to see some of the potential game-breaking plays. We just now need, he just needs the reps. So, I mean, the only thing is Noah. See, the reason why I said Dalton over Mechie because Noah Brown is coming back, right? Noah Brown's probably going to play this week because he was designated to return. So, by him coming back, that's going to also eat into Mechie's potential snap count because, believe it or not, Noah Brown was starting. He started week 1, and I think he got more snaps than Tank Dell and Mechie combined.
He did. Okay, well, no doubt. Hey, if you play fantasy football, man, y'all make sure to listen. DJ, I got a couple more questions for you before we do wrap this up. And I've read this in the article that you dropped recently about Dameon Pierce and the struggles. You just talked about how the offensive line is just now getting healthy. In that article, you talked about how head coach D'Amico Ryans is confident that this run game will start to open up. However, they have a matchup against one of the best defenses in football in the New Orleans Saints this Sunday. They're top 4 in the NFL and least amount of points per game allowed at 15. What is it? 15.2. And they've only allowed one team to score 20 or more this season. I mean, how do you expect things to play out? Like, let's preview and talk about this game just real quick. can the Houston Texans team move the football against a wall that is the New Orleans Saints defense?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think it's gonna be a slugfest though. I think that the Texans defense is gonna be able to hold their own against the Saints offense too. So I think it's gonna be a low scoring type of game overall. And it's gonna come down to who can make critical plays in the fourth quarter to help seal that game. I think it's gonna be a lot similar to the game against the Atlanta Falcons in that capacity, where both teams kind of stalled until the end, where the Falcons finally scored, got some points on the board. They actually got a touchdown on the board and kicked the game in the field goal. The Texans scored a touchdown on when they got the ball with 6 minutes to go, a touchdown to put them up by a point. But I think it's gonna be that type of game, man. I think overall, man, both defenses are going to be able to at times overwhelm the opposing offense. So I think that if there was a quote-unquote bad CJ Stroud game for a rookie game, because every single quarterback, even if you're not a rookie, like you're all bound to have a so-so game.
Oh yeah.
I think this is the week where I think it could probably happen, mainly because the Saints match up really well with their pass catchers. Because the Saints secondary is phenomenal. You got Marcus May, you got Marshawn Lattimore, you got Tom Matthews. You got Taylor out of Tennessee, the second-year cornerback. Like they got some dudes back there, and again, like the linebackers are really good. Demario Davis, Warner, like they got some dudes. You know what I mean? Like they got some
dogs,
some dogs. So I think, I think it's gonna take a really good game plan from a schematic standpoint, but I also know that it's only a matter of time till teams finally peep all of Bobby Slowik's tendencies and peep most of CJ's tendencies. Because you got to remember, that's the benefit of having a rookie quarterback and a rookie offensive coordinator is, teams don't really have much to go off of. So they're kind of more, guessing, right? They're having to dig deep into film from years ago, right? And having to try to, piece together, what a guy does well, what a guy doesn't do well. But now this actual film, it's going to eventually come together where everybody can know, all right, this is what they do well, this is what they don't do well, this is how we're going to tackle them. So this is one of the games where they kind of got to get the ground game going because without Tank, right, I think that also they're losing an elite separator because the Saints going to play some man. They're going to play some 2-man and just tell the Texans receivers, yo, beat us. And Tank is really good at separating to, at least, catch over the middle, kiss some passes over the middle, or out routes, things of that nature, to at least back this cornerback up just a little bit and have a little bit of respect for that receiving core, things of that nature. So I think missing him is going to show up a little bit. You kind of saw it show up against the Falcons because the Falcons play a lot of quarters and man coverage. So some Robert with Jesse Bates. So I mean, they were able to really be white on rice with a lot of they were stuck to some of the receivers white on rice. So I think overall they're gonna have to get a little creative, get the ground game going to be able to move the ball with some efficiency. It's one of those efficient games where you're gonna have to every point is gonna matter because I think it'll be a defensive slugfest.
Man, no doubt about that. Before we do wrap this up though, DJ, I just gotta ask, can you give the fans one bold prediction for the Houston Texans for the rest of this season?
Okay. They'll be in first place at some point in December. First place in the AFC South at some point in December.
Hey, y'all heard the man. I'm gonna hold you to that. I'm gonna see what happens. And I just want to say this just for the record, bro. Before the season even started, I had dropped a little clip on YouTube, and I talked about the Houston Texans. I said, "Yo, don't be surprised if this team makes a run for the AFC South." And I'm not going to stand by that now. I don't think I wouldn't bet on that, right? But I do think that, especially with the way that they handled the Jaguars, I understand, there's a history between them two and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Just always seem to falter against the Texans. But man, I'm right there with you, bro. Sheesh, that's a bold prediction, though. I like it.
Yeah, you said bold, so I had to give bold.
Come on. Come on. But man, again, Bo, this was fun. As we all know, time flies when you are having fun.
Yep.
So, DJ, before we do go, I do want to give you the floor. Whatever you want to talk about, anything you want to plug, whatever's going on, talk to him.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me at on Twitter at DJ Bien Aime. Pretty simple as that. I got some stuff in the chamber regarding CJ coming out in the next few weeks. It's gonna be some really interesting stuff, some cool stuff. So be on the lookout.
Hey, again, for Mr. DJ Bien Aime, he covers the Houston Texans for ESPN. It's been fun. It's your host, Steezy A. Smith. That concludes another edition, another episode on the beat featuring the Houston Texans. Hope you have a blessed day. Peace.